Another year has passed, another budget has been presented to the parliament and to the country. To know more about this, let's join Sri R Venkatesh, writer, TV commentator, auditor, and recently a lawyer. Mr. MRV, welcome to PGurus channel.
Good morning, sir. How are you? Long time that I did not come to PGurus.
Yes, so indeed. And we are very, very happy to have your presence here in our hangout. And MRV, you've been having a ringside seat amongst all the things that are going on. The economy is slowing. So typically in a developed economy, what happens is the monetary policy will start easing first, and then the government will step in with a fiscal policy that sort of puts money in people's hands so that the spending can go up and thereby revive the economy. The same rules may or may not apply to India. How do you see it? What are the things that the government has tried to do from increasing the demand and or helping the demand, and what are the things it has done to help the supply side? And overall, what is your impression?
See, look at it two ways. If you look at Age of Turbulence by Alan Greenspan, he talks about how important was his monetary policy.
Yes.
And he comes about and gives various scenarios as to how he has tackled various political and emerging scenarios in US.
Right.
But if you take India, for instance, you will find that there is a very little connect between a monetary policy and, say, easing or tightening a particular situation. The time lag, even if you raise your interest rate by 0.5% or 1%, or that's 100 basis points. Even RBI has said repeatedly that the time lag to actually see the effect at the ground level takes anywhere between 3 to 6 months. That's a huge lag. Whereas in US, the transmission of a policy shock or a policy relaxation comes almost instantaneously. So, to that extent, to say that the monetary policy can drive India is some sort of a very benign statement. So that is why the pressure is always on the fisc. That is why budgets become very interesting in India. And that is why RBI, whenever it takes a monetary policy stance, we take it as a weather news.
Right.
We don't care too much about it. So that explains the importance of the budget in a way.
Well, that's why I qualified my opening preamble saying that I don't know how related these two entities are. So from the budget point of view, I have a quick back of the envelope calculation here that has been sent by a friend of mine. It says if a person is making 8 lakhs per annum, including, all the things like pension and salary and, dividends and things like that, that under the current budget, the interest, the taxable value is, the tax on that is much higher, almost 100% higher than what it used to be in the previous one. And the other recent talking statement here is that there is an option of choosing this or that in presenting the taxes. Before we start questioning that, I must tell our viewers that if you happen to be paying taxes in the United States, the same thing happens for every taxpayer. There is something called as alternate minimum tax, wherein if you happen to be holding stocks or if you have bought stocks, even if you don't sell them, the bought stocks are perceived to have a certain value, and the government assumes that you have a certain net asset because of that, and it tries to calculate your taxes in 2 different ways. There is called as the regular way, and there's another one called the AMT way. Whichever is higher is the one that the government will say that you have to pay as taxes. Now, what is your take on this dual thing that you have option of filing one way or the other? Why was this introduced? I mean, isn't it not counterintuitive?
See, 2 ways of looking at it. One is, of course, what you said is that we have been influenced largely by global tax regimes,
right,
without realizing what it is in America to pay the tax and get the benefit from the government.
Yes.
Whereas in India, much not said the better in terms of getting any terms of direct benefits from the government when you pay your taxes. So now, as far as the alternate regime is there, the government wants to go to a simplified tax regime of 30% on your gross salary. Simple, beyond a particular point. Now they are migrating to a system, and they are also on an experimental mode. And they are giving an, as you said, they have flown, they have just floated this idea, and it is for an individual. And I'm telling you, what is cheese for the goose is not going to be cheese for the gander. Each one has to necessarily go not to one chartered accountant, probably to two, to verify whether what he has arrived as his net tax bill is best suited for him or not under regime A or regime B, and then take a calculated, informed decision. Now it is back of the envelope calculations. All these things may be true for Sri Iyer, may not be true for R Venkatesh.
Understood. So it's kind of becoming a little more complex. See, what I am, I kind of stunned a little bit is that it appears that the excise duties have been raised on some items, and which essentially means that things are going to be dearer for people to buy. And essentially, it is again counterintuitive to what I would have thought, which is to try and improve, the demand side by placing more money in the hands of people, consumers, whereas it seems like the government is going the other way. So there is some basic disconnect in terms of what we are looking at and what the government is looking at. So the only conclusion I can arrive at, and I could be horribly wrong about this, the only conclusion that I could arrive with is that government is finding it increasingly difficult to realize revenues. I just did another back of the envelope calculation. Assume that GST revenues are 1 lakh crores per month, 12 lakh crores per month annual thing, and assume that personal income taxes give about 5 lakh crores. So 17 lakh crores is the income. I'm not looking at any other things that are coming into the government. So is this number then inflated? What exactly is going on?
Okay. First thing about the excise. Virtually, host of all the items that you're talking about have migrated to the GST regime.
Right.
The excise increase has come about in cigarettes, which probably does not bother you and definitely does not bother me. And that increase is always a welcome thing, whatever they have done. But even in that, if you go through the notification, they have said cigarettes without filters up to 65 mm, cigarettes with more than 65 mm, but with filters of not less than 11 mm. So they have again complicated even taxing cigarettes.
Cigarette smoking is bad, period. Just tax the heck out of it if you want.
So we are welcoming it, and I think we will be with the government on that.
Right.
Now, as far as your back of the envelope calculation is concerned, we have around 6 lakh crores of taxes on non-corporates, which is among us, which has been the biggest buoyant taxpayer in this last 3-4 years. The amount of taxes collected by non-corporate individuals, AOPs, BOIs, then your LLPs, small firms, has just shot through the roof. Not only the numbers, both in numbers and in the quantum, has increased significantly. Instead of rewarding them, what has happened is that you have already, though this confusion is probably a transitory one, and I would expect the confusion to end in 2-3 years, people were expecting, as you rightly said, that was also not only in terms of good behavioral reward. I would have thought from a macroeconomic perspective that taxpayers were given some sort of a relief to put more money in the hands of the taxpayer, which in the household.
Right.
As far as GST is concerned, as you said, 1 lakh crores per annum, it will be 12 lakh crores. The center's share is around 6 lakh crores.
Right.
Okay. So the center's share is 6 lakh crores. There is a 6 lakh crores of income tax collected from individuals. So 12 lakh crores, not 17, but 12 lakh crores will be in the hands of the government.
Are there no other sources of income? Are there no other sources of income?
So the corporate taxes is around 5 lakh crores.
So that is 17 then again, right?
17.
Yeah.
And then you have borrowings, dividends, all those things that come up. And then that adds to another 5 lakh crores. And then you have a borrowing of 7 lakh crores. So the budget size is around 30 lakh crores.
Okay.
So be that as it may, the problem for the Indian economy is that we are not putting money in the hands of the people. And although the finance minister says, and it's a very good statement, which probably, in my ultimate analysis, this was a very longish budget where finance minister was probably overwhelmed on the occasion, and she went all over the place. And she says that very interestingly, that net of all these taxes, if you look at it, from the migration to the GST regime, actually they have put 1 lakh crores into the hands of the people per annum.
I see.
This is a good number. And I recall even Arun Jaitley saying this, something to that effect, in one of those budgets. So this is a good amount of money being put in the hands of the people. And
where is it reaching? Where is it reaching the people? Is it for like Swachh Bharat Yojana or something like that?
See, the problem with our budget is that it is structurally impossible to do anything concrete by spending. Because 25 paisa in a rupee is on interest, roughly. Okay. 25 paisa is on your babudam salaries and wages. That takes 50 paisa. Another 10 paisa is your subsidies.
Okay.
That is your Manrega, fertilizer subsidy, food subsidy, and your other subsidies, petroleum subsidy. So 60 paisa is all that it takes to write it in a piece of paper, in a A4 piece of paper. 60 paisa is gone. And then on this balance 40, you have capital expenditure on defense, on your power plants, on your this and that. So the finance ministers have much less elbow room than Lord Jesus had on the cross.
Well, I have a question here. The 25% that you mentioned as interest payment, most of that money is going to banks that are under the government's control. And I've known that the government gives it with one hand, takes it away with another hand. Isn't that still at the government's disposal?
See, not really. I'll tell you. It is not the banks are funded. Actually, R Venkatesh and Sri Iyer have put money into the deposits of bank.
Yes.
And the banks are mandated to maintain roughly 25% of the deposits as securities with the government. So banks in turn have to pay me.
Right.
Okay, so my deposit is what gets deposited into the hands of the government as fiscal deficit through the banks.
Okay,
through the banks. So there is definitely that money comes back to me, but that money is not free money. Please understand, that's not going to stimulate the economy. It is my savings.
Correct.
Okay, and interestingly, the economic survey does not mention a word about savings rate of 2018-19.
Oh, so it has. Well, I have read that the number has come down alarmingly,
but
from 32 to 20-ish.
But that is all speculation. The economic survey is silent about it.
Okay.
Now, I have never seen that you have missed your savings rate for 2018-19 of March 2019. You have got all the figures. You have got the growth figures. You have got the IIP numbers. You have got everything else. But one number missing is the savings rate for last year. So in February of this year, we are unable to estimate the savings of previous financial year.
That is very strange. I mean, I don't think it would have changed a whole lot, except for the demonetization. No other big event has happened in terms of the spending habits of the populace, isn't it?
See, that's the biggest mystery. If you look at the big picture, corporate profits have dwindled. Savings rate has dwindled. Now, if my savings goes down, somewhere down the line, the corporate profits must have gone up, mathematically.
Yes.
Or if the corporate profits have dwindled, then my money in the hands of the people and savings rate would have concomitantly gone up. Both sides are not happening. So there is a very big mystery, what I call as the biggest mystery in Indian economy today, is that this mismatch is not yet been reconciled. As an accountant, I'm not able to reconcile these two things. And I will also tell you one more fact, which is mysterious. You go to any malls, you go to any hospital, you go to any bus stop, you go to any airport, you see people it's filled to the brim. It's packed like sardines.
Yes.
But where is it that we are talking about a growth of less than 5%? Somewhere, a big picture somebody is missing.
MRV, here's what I see. I was in India for close to 5 weeks this time, 4 to 5 weeks. And I was traveling the length and breadth of the country. And one indication for me is how early I have to do my hotel bookings so as to get the hotel of my choice and the room of my choice. And interestingly, in this visit, I was able to do bookings on the same day, and I could still get what I wanted. You see,
okay.
you will get a room, but it will not be the room you want. There are hotels, there are rooms within hotels. The rooms are different. If you keep going to the same hotel, you know which ones you like, which ones you don't like. You get my picture, right? So this time, I was able to get the room of my choice. So that tells me that the hotel occupancies are down. And that tells me, yeah, go ahead.
But the flight occupancy aren't.
Yeah, so here is the thing. People have taken to flying because it is within the reach of middle class now. So somebody could be going from one home to another home. My mom only travels by flight now. It's been a long time since she went by train.
Middle class is jettisoned train. And also, supposing previously we used to stay back in, say, a city like Bombay or Delhi,
right,
to finish the overnight work. But today, I think it is cheaper to come back to your home place and avoid hotel bookings also.
Yes.
So there is also a structural issue that is going on.
Right.
So the confluence of a global factor, structural factor, then of course self-inflicted, regulatory, all these things are happening at the same point in time. Probably that is why there is a dissonance in data, and there is a sort of a confusion in what we actually see and what we are actually getting at. But all said and done, there is some sort of a worry about the larger picture in the Indian economy.
Sir, one other question. There has been murmurs that the LIC is going to be disinvested next, that it is going to go private. Now, I have heard stories of people in the power, like in ministry and minister in the Ministry of Finance, asking LIC to buy worthless pieces of stock because on the counterparty was a participatory note holder who wanted to get out on a high, and they were trying to see who would buy that. And usually the bakra used to be LICs and some of the public sector banks. We don't have to take names. We don't have to take stocks. This has happened, and it's been written also. Now, so essentially LIC has the trust of the people today that it is profitable and it is well run and so on and so forth. Is this a good idea?
See, on a broad picture, LIC divestment is a welcome move. I think it is excellent to happen. Let me not beat around the bush, say that. But just because you have divested it and put 10%, 20% of the stocks in the stock market doesn't guarantee you good governance. Governance is a different thing, and listing is a different thing. I will tell you the story. If you can Google after this recording is over.
Yeah.
R Venkatesh, LIC.
Okay.
I have written a 2-part article, and you will see for yourself that one of the MDs of LIC was not given the permission to become the chairman of LIC by the then finance minister, as he was found to be unfit. And horror of horrors, you will not believe it, it happened in India, that the man was recommended for demotion as a zonal manager.
Wow.
Now this is not the story. Now this is the story now. The same man, after a new finance minister came, of course from my part of the country, I will not reveal his name. Okay, he is very close to my heart. Okay?
I'm reminded of Crazy Mohan dialogue, but go ahead.
Now that man always comes in a veshti. That man is always in white and white. I will not name him. The man promotes him to become the IRDA chairman. So one finance minister finds him incompetent not to be even the chairman of LIC, becomes a regulator of the entire insurance company. Now, long and short of it is, Shri, that LIC loans given off, especially as debentures, not only this participatory note buyoff, must be the biggest scam, much bigger than even your 2G.
Yes.
But if we have to hand it over to 4 or 5 people, the truth will never come out. Probably this disinvestment will also not help. If you are again going to have somebody from the same coterie to become the director of LIC, hopefully 30-40% of LIC will get into the public hands, and we will have somebody of good competence like you becoming the director of LIC. Unearth all these things, put it out as transparent. No, I am not joking. We all hope always springs eternally in human breast, and we have to necessarily pray that this happens. So divestment per se is not the issue. Management is. Remember what Mao said, I don't mind whether the cat is black or white as long as it catches the mice. I don't mind whether if your PSUs are going to remain as PSUs or whether they are divested. But do you have the managerial bandwidth to run an organization, a behemoth like LIC? I'm sorry to say, even the best of public sector, private sector managers. In India today, we are having a huge managerial problem that is not only with the government. There is a governance issue in most of the best known companies in India. Balance sheets are more a fiction than accounting numbers. And you can borrow it for some of them can be borrowed as ideas for your new book, Shri.
Yes, indeed. And so ultimately, what is the scorecard? Is it better than the previous year's budget? Is it going to be good for the country? What are your thoughts on that?
See, suddenly I found in the budget speech, there was a reference to attitude. And the finance minister quotes that attitude, which roughly translates and says that enjoy after you work. Okay, roughly that is the translation. And that was quoted in the context of chemical fertilizers and making the lands fallow. Now, I don't understand that attitude is divine. Attitude has its own pride of place. But even Avaya, despite all her brilliance and intelligence, would not have conceptualized that to be quoted along with chemical fertilizers. The point I'm laboring along with, Sri, is there is a dissonance in the budget. We are not able to understand for the last 10-12 years, or probably since this government took over more so, that there is a war by the bureaucracy on the entrepreneurs of India. Now, there will be excesses. There will be entrepreneurial excesses. There will be somebody who would obviously not play by the rules. But the large section of especially small and medium enterprises are playing by the rules, are people who actually do not want the government to step in. And that is that engine which is going to take you to a $5 trillion economy. This government or this budget definitely does not behave the stature of an economy which is at 3 trillion and is aspirational towards a 5 trillion goal. It sides with the bureaucracy, and there is so much of nitpicking and motherhood statements. And for instance, there is at least 6 areas, all on hospitals, on education, on very vital things. Government says that it will enter into PPP. Now, public-private partnership is a motherhood statement. Those who have entered PPP with Government of India have embraced ruination. So nobody is going to enter into PPP with the government, because the moment you enter, the Babudam comes back and nitpicks on something, and that contract comes to a stall.
That's true.
So if you really want to get out of the logjam and really want to make PPP effective, all you have to do is to have probably a very quick resolution mechanism, which Arun Jaitley promised 4 years back. But nothing has happened. So there is so much of motherhood statements. So if you take the last 4 or 5 years of budget and calmly look at it and where it is going, it sides with the bureaucracy. It is for the Babudam. It is not for the entrepreneurial class. It does not bad for the entrepreneurial class. The economic survey on 31st January says we want wealth creators to be respected. The budget says wealth creators will be suspected.
That was a well put statement. And see, I think this whole exercise is beginning to confirm the fears that everybody has been expressing for a while, that for a country of India's complexity, someone who has a full idea of macroeconomics, not microeconomics, should be at the helm of affairs. And for some reason, despite having the talent, despite having the right personnel for the job, this government chooses to not use that talent. And that is really a travesty of justice for India. And I hope the Babus who are watching this take it in the right spirit. You know, you guys are redundant. About 1/4 of you can run this country. This is my opinion, because the country will actually run. The other 3/4 can take voluntary retirement. But anyway, that's just me. And I know for sure with this statement, they won't even touch me with a 40-foot pole. But I'm not asking to be touched anyway. So essentially, something more drastic needed to have been done on this budget. I take it from your observation, and it has fallen short. Plus, the government has 4 more years, so they could have taken some risks, isn't it?
See, again, risks, yes. Now, my point is, you can take risks on the policy, but not on the fiscal side. Fiscal side, you have shot yourself on the foot unless you have the ability. Now, ideally, I would have loved something like this. The disinvestment of 210,000 crores that the finance minister has budgeted should not have been adjusted towards the fiscal deficit or the revenue deficit. It should have been taken outside of the budget, and we must have retired the loans of the government of India, which is now reaching 100 lakh crores. 50 days from now, we are going to touch a figure of 100 lakh crores as the gross debt of the government of India. Now, if 2 lakh crores were retired this year, I would have been happy. But we are not retiring these loans. We are using the family silver not to retire the loans, but we are using the family silver to get the grocery.
That's true, and that's very.
So these are the bold. No, disinvestment per se is not something that we need to worry about. Disinvestment has to be done, and interestingly, government is very keen on Air India disinvestment, but I don't see anything reflected in the budget about it.
Well, if you ask me, Air India disinvestment is to try and hide some of the bribes that were given in 2G scams. And for some reason, this government is very eager to close the whole thing and let off the people who had their money in their hand in the cookie jar. That's how I see it, because the 2G scam deals, these people took the money, bribes from Emirates and other people, and a way to pay that back was to give them seat allocation. And now, they're trying to sell off the Air India itself completely to try, and if there is no company, then there is nothing to go and chase after and saying who did what, how did he buy the planes at 20% above the list price, and who got that money and so on. That's how it looks like to me, but I could be wrong. So even if Air India was disinvested, how much money do you think it would have?
No, the question is not. We are strictly on the budget, Shri. I am saying that the budget should have said I was getting 5,000 crores, 2,000 crores. What I'm saying is, on one hand, I'm only talking about the dissonance. I'm not a scholar like you who does enormous amount of research on the government of India. I'm on a limited focus of the budget. I'm saying on one hand, we talk about Air India disinvestment, whereas the budget does not take anything. Probably they are gifting something to the Emirates, as you said. I don't know. You take the entire Air India free. If that is the case, I have no issues on that either. But I'm on the simple point that the budget does not take those numbers. I'm only talking about what we are seeing on, say, Monday does not get reflected in the budget documents on Saturday.
Sir, this Air India thing, I just want to finish my thing. Already the damage is done. I'll tell you why. You can fly to even a smaller airport like Coimbatore directly from Dubai or from Singapore. So essentially, Singapore Airlines touches your endpoint, and so does Emirates. Okay, so I doubt if Air India flies from Coimbatore to Dubai, whereas Emirates is doing that today. So already the damage is done. If anything, Air India needs to get back some of the routes that you used to hold dear. And I see the converse happening. So I don't know. I'm like troubled. Air India Express seems to be still eking out a profit. I don't know the difference between what one is and what the other is. But then if you build all these huge airports, what is the point in doing that if your airlines are not going to be able to take advantage of those?
Exactly. That is the larger point that Udan, when it talks about, it does not believe that today Dubai is the best Indian city for most Indians, and most Indians love to operate out of Dubai, even if those businesses in India. So Udan connections, all those things which we are talking about. I'm not only talking about Dubai. I'm talking about the host of neighboring countries. And as you said that I can, but one thing probably you are not aware is the difference between Air India Express and Air India. In Air India, you get a one-day-old sandwich, whereas in Air India Express, you get a two-day-old sandwich. That's the difference between the two. So other than that, the whole lot of it is the same management, same lethargy, same delays. So it's a good thing that we think about divesting it, but on getting the money on the true value, whether even a divestment in the stock market by putting it into the hands of the people by saying 40%, getting fresh management talent, fresh ideas to run it. As you said, key trunk routes have been taken over by Emirates. For India, Singapore Airlines and Emirates are fast emerging as our national carriers.
Yes, yes. I completely agree with you. I have no choice but to use them today. Yes.
Yeah, and especially when today the lines of your tier 1 and tier 2 cities are getting blurred. So as you said, Madurai to Singapore, you have connectivity through Singapore Airlines. We have connectivity through Emirates. So all these things, Singapore Airlines and Emirates are fast reaching tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Yes.
So and with excellent airports, we are actually facilitating them. And we don't have, and I'm telling you, if you allow Air India to go get another 60 aircrafts, there will be 20 aircrafts worth of bribery. Yes. That is the structure of Air India. Today we are between Skilla and Chevrolet, where if you do something, you are damned. If you don't do something, you're doomed. So that is the rut that we are in. And budget is, okay, chalta hai. It takes 1 year at a time. It doesn't look at these type of structural things. That is my grouse with this budget.
We all talk about, Modi fighting corruption. And one sign for me would be if he starts compulsorily retiring Indian Administrative Service, that is IAS officers, not IRS. IRS, okay, fine. But I would like, once the IAS officers are being compulsorily retired, then I would know that this government is serious about corruption. Anyway, we have covered a lot of topics. Hey, go ahead.
Can I add something on that? I would put it this way, that the IAS goes after the rich, IRS goes after the middle class, and the IPS goes after the poor. Okay, since you are a rich man, the IAS seems to have bothered you, and I am a poor man, the police have bothered me more. So leave it at that, and unless administrative reforms are going to happen in a significant manner, we are not going to have any effects of budgets. You and I can debate till the cows come home, but it is going to be business as usual, chalta hai, and 10 years down the line, mark my words, if we both are alive and we meet in PGurus, I would see nothing big happening in India. And India will become a $5 trillion economy despite the government, not because of the government.
That is true. I mean, just see, 5 trillion is just a number. That doesn't mean people's lives are going to get better. Anyway, we will talk about that at a later topic. But thank you very much, MRV. This has been a very stimulating and scintillating conversation.
Thank you, sir.